Hello, my little lint traps, and welcome to another episode of Dirty Willy with Fulta Burstyn, where we get to root around and find all the dirty parts of Shakespeare, the fun parts, the silly parts, the hot parts. Now, today we're going to take an interesting, fascinating little scene, kind of a favorite of mine, from Henry V, one of England's great kings. He started out as a little party boy. He hung out in the taverns with fat men drinking lots of booze. But when he got the crown, he turned out to be one of England's great kings. The play opens up and everybody's going, my God, he's a great king. Who would have thought? And King Henry decides that it's time to invade France, because that's what they did back then. They invaded each other in the bedroom and across the channel. So he decides it's time for England to get in the boats and go over to France and say it's part of England, okay? Needless to say, France is a little pissed off about this. But as it turns out, the English are pretty good at this, and they start winning battles, and they start working their way up to Paris, where they're going to take the capital and, say, I'm your king now, so screw yourselves. There's this interesting little scene about halfway through the play. Now, the Princess of France probably figures out what's coming because, well, what might be coming, because Henry is working his way towards Paris, and if he wins, they're going to have a peace treaty, and she's going to be the prize. So she's probably starting to think about this already. So it's this delicious little scene where she comes in with her nurse and starts asking her how to speak English. Now, it's unusual because the whole scene's in French. It's the only scene in Shakespeare that he writes in French, which is kind of fascinating in and of itself. But anyway, she comes in and she says to her nurse, you speak English, right? And the nurse says, well, yeah, sort of. And she says, well, teach me some English words so I can speak English. And she starts with very simple stuff like your hand, your fingers, your nails. Of course, a young girl's going to want to know nails because, you got to get a manicure before you get crowned Queen of England. So, and she works her way up to the arm and the elbow and the neck and the chin. So she's got all the, the anatomical parts almost. And so she keeps asking, and finally she says, how do you say, and she uses the French word le robe, or the dress. She said, how do you say that? And how do you say le pied? So she's working her way down to the bottom now. So Alice thinks about it, and she says, le robe et le con. And she's trying to say gown, but she doesn't say it very well. She says le con, et le pied, et le foot. And the young girl is scandalized. Because you see, con, well, just add a T and you're home free. You'll understand why she's so horrified by that. And of course, foot, in that time, foutre meant to fuck in French. So she's like, how do you say gown and how do you say foot? And the nurse says cunt and fuck. What's a little girl to do? But, she's royalty. She recovers herself pretty quickly. And she repeats the list of words she knows, and she's got the good ones, and they trip off to dinner. It's a delightful little scene. Of course, King Henry wins, and he wins the princess's hand, and they all live happily ever after, especially because the princess knows how to foot. And that's Dirty Willy with Fulta Burstyn. You can count on it. See you next time. Oh, get over here. Anyway, so what was I saying? Shakespeare.